Welcome back. On our show today, we'll reflect on how Let the Koran Speak has evolved through the eyes of our outgoing executive producer, Ilyas Ally, who has been in the role for the past 5 years. He has also served as an assistant imam at the Islamic Information and Dawah Center. Ilyas has an MA in Islamic Studies from the University of Toronto. Welcome to the show, Ilyas.
Thanks.
So I know you're transitioning out of your role here at the TV show as executive producer, so I just wanted to reflect a little bit. Take us back to the beginning. How did you get involved with Let the Koran Speak?
Well, it was sort of a natural process growing up with my dad, Dr. Shabir. It was always part of what he did. So in the 90s, before this show existed, he was doing a radio show called Scripture Studies that was on Chin Radio. And I remember that in his room, in his bedroom, he was, trying to turn it into like a sound studio with the foam on the wall and everything.
Oh, nice.
And the, the sound equipment. And I used to help him to record some of his shows.
How old were you then?
Not much older than 10, I would say.
Oh, wow,
yeah,
okay.
So I used to have a mini disc recorder, and I started to get involved at that early stage. And we would even help him sometimes to record some things. I remember once we were on vacation, we were on a road trip, and we sat in the car and we recorded the radio show like in the middle of the parking lot.
Very cool.
So things like that is like how we got started, I suppose, in media and getting involved in the work that is done here at the Islamic Information and Dawah Center. That was in 2001. I was sort of busy in school at that time, but I was sort of involved here and there, helping out sometimes with the editing, helping out sometimes with the filming. But
you didn't have any background at the time, like you weren't studying media or editing or anything like that, so you kind of just learned?
No, along the way we typically had like a consultant who would be, somebody who knew media and who knew, the technical side of things, and they would sort of coach us along the way, and then we would take over from there. So yeah, we just tried to fill the gaps wherever we could, and it became something very natural to do. And then, once I finished up from my schooling at around 2010, I decided, I looked around and thought, well, how can I serve the community? And this was really the way to do it.
Very cool. I think it, paints a very nice picture for viewers. So how did you, I guess, what was the most memorable, maybe not memorable, but sort of what inspired you to stay on with the show? I know obviously it was sort of a family business of sorts, so, you started off young, but sort of what motivated you to be on? Was it your dad or what was it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I saw that what my dad was doing was really valuable in the sense that I really believe that we need public education. Things like the kind of education or the kind of programming that you see on public, national broadcasters, whether it be CBC or TVO or in the States, NPR, things like that. The kind of documentaries you see there or, the panel discussions that happen, I think are really educational for society as a whole. So I think that as Muslims, we need that kind of thing, both internally, like to have internal dialogues in the community, and also to be able to connect with the wider Canadian community or wider audiences and have a conversation. And I think that's something that really doesn't exist. There aren't too many platforms for that, and I felt that was really important. So I really think that the mission of the show is really important, and it's something that has motivated me throughout my years here.
And what were some of the memorable moments that you've had on the TV show?
It's probably too many to count, but I think that what we've tried to do in the past, I would say 5 years, is, if people have been watching the show over the past 15 or 17 years, they've probably noticed a few stages of development. And in the past 5 years, what we've tried to be consistent about is bringing guests onto the show who bring, different perspectives. And I think we've tried our best to bring diverse guests who are really contributing in interesting ways to society, whether they be artists or academics or activists, and they're all doing something really unique. And sometimes they're sort of, they're not really known outside of their small circles, but what they're doing is really impactful. So it's really sort of, it feels good when we have a chance to showcase that, across the country and internationally online. And of late, some of the things that we've done that I thought were really, interesting, and they're not really commonly done. We've done a lot of things on mental health. And I think we haven't really seen too many things from within the Muslim community talking about mental health. but I think we've managed to put together maybe almost like 15 interviews on mental health from different experts, from different Muslim experts, and I think that's been really valuable. Another thing that we've done of late is a lot of conversations around the Black Muslim experience and racism that Black Muslims feel within the Muslim community, and I think that's something that's also a really important conversation. Yeah.
So I know you did a lot of background work, but you've also hosted in the past every now and then. So tell me a little bit about what that experience has been like, and what was I guess important for you there as a host, because I know you did that in and out.
Yeah, I mean, that was never really sort of the job. It was something that I did to fill in when you were away or when Sophia was away.
Yeah.
And it's challenging. It's something that it looks easy when you watch it, but when you try to do it, it's actually quite challenging. But it's just really, I found being involved in the show, having a chance to be to meet amazing people week in and week out. Whether they be visiting scholars from out of town or just local people who you've never really had a chance to sit down with. I think that's something really. That's one of the perks of the job, I guess. You get to meet so many cool people.
Definitely. Yeah. And where do you did, obviously you have a lot of background now in media. Do you think that's something for you in the future? I know I'm prying a bit into your personal life, but hey, why not?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, the mission that this show is working on is something that's really important. It's something that I believe in, and I think that, given there's always that constant need to explain Islam and to present Islam in a way that is representative of what the overwhelming majority of Muslims live and experience. And it's kind of sad that we kind of have to be always fighting against other narratives. Yeah. But it's such important work, then we can't neglect it. So it's something that we just have to constantly be doing. And we're not doing enough of it as a community, although we're trying. But I don't think that it's hard to combat the negative images out there. Like there's just so many that just keep pouring in, sadly. People who are claiming to represent Islam but really presenting it in such a horrible light.
So do you think will we see Ilyas Ally in some capacity in media anytime soon, or what do you think?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's necessarily behind in front of the camera, but definitely in some sort of media or some sort of platform where we're presenting Islam in a way that is accessible to a wider audience. I think that's something that is important to me, and I hope to continue doing so. Okay, well, I definitely look forward to seeing what the future holds for Ilyas and how you contribute back to the community. Just one last question before we wrap up. What do you hope, you've seen the show evolve, literally what it sounds like, from your home, in your dad's room, all the way to a full-out production. So what do you hope for the future of the TV show? And I guess any advice you have for the incoming executive producer? Well, a couple of things I think that we've been doing that I would like to see more of. One is having more interfaith conversations and conversations with other communities. We had a chance to have Cody Zachariah, who's a youth leader, youth indigenous leader. That was something that was really important, and I think we need more conversations with the indigenous communities. We've had a couple of Christian leaders come on the show. We had Joe Abbey Colburn, who's a director for Faith in the City, and we also had the Reverend Gary Vandermeer, who's a local Anglican priest. And I think bringing more interfaith leaders onto the show and leaders of other communities is really important, because it'll help us to build bridges, and it'll also help people to look at our show in a way that they can sort of bridge with their own community. And sort of be able to relate. Exactly, yeah, and I think it's important for us to have those conversations. And I remember, seeing in the comments of the interview that I did along with the Reverend Gary Vandermeer, somebody was saying, yeah, this is sort of like a model of how things should be, and we want to see more of that. So I think that's very valuable. The other thing that I would really like to see more of is for the show to go out of the studio, because we have a lot of important conversations and valuable conversations here in studio, but there's only so much we can sort of demonstrate in studio. There's a lot of value to going out and really showing what it is like to be a Muslim in society, what Muslims are doing in their communities, some of the great work they're doing. You can only really show that. You can't really talk about it. Yeah, you can't illustrate sort of the spaces that they're in. Exactly. So we've tried to do some of that over the past few years, but it's been sort of very sporadic, partly because we've had some technical limitations. But I'm hoping that our new executive producer, who's coming in with a lot of talent, we'll be able to take things to the next level and, hopefully, maybe not on a weekly basis, but, on a more frequent basis, viewers will be able to see things outside of the studio of what Muslims are doing in different spaces.
Well, Ilyas, it's been a pleasure and honor working with you, and I have to thank you for all the support you gave me when I was on the show and continuing to be here. So thank you so much, and hopefully we'll be in touch.
All right, thank you. All the best.
If you want more of Let the Koran Speak, you can watch previous episodes or new ones by subscribing to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/QuranSpeaks. Stay updated by liking us on Facebook and following us on Twitter @Quran_speaks. And when you're on the go, listen to our podcast at QuranSpeaks.com.